What a beautiful and wonderful Thursday morning this is. Arsenal are cooking, baby. Eberechi Eze is almost an Arsenal player. Who saw that coming? I'd given up hope. I felt like we were going to sort of stutter our way through the end of the transfer window, that we'd keep our eyes open, that we'd be looking for market opportunities. But I never in my wildest dreams thought that we would move for Eberechi Eze the way we have, as swiftly as we have, taking him away from Tottenham Hotspur, who thought they had a deal, who thought they'd got this over the line, only for Arsenal to roll up, flex our muscles, and basically steal their primary target away from them, from right underneath their noses, and add what really could be the final piece to the Arsenal puzzle. We're going to break it all down. We're going to discuss it at length. We brought you a bonus pod last night, which was kind of a raw reaction to the news that broke maybe just 10 minutes before we went live. So I've had a lot of time to sort of process my thoughts. I've had a lot of time to scroll through X, and I think I've probably spent more time on X in the last, I want to say, 12 hours than I have probably across the rest of the month combined, just because there was so much brilliant content to take in. Arsenal fans rejoicing, buzzing, watching people's live reactions as that news broke. But perhaps more enjoyable than that, in fact, definitely more enjoyable than that, was watching Tottenham Hotspur fans lose their heads, melt down. There are compilations of them all over the internet. It's fantastic to see. It's beautiful stuff. We're going to break it all down. We're going to talk lots and lots about it over the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how long we go. I'm going to say some good mornings, going to say some hellos, but first of all, welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. We are buzzing, baby. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What a wonderful Thursday morning. Let's say a few good mornings to those of you in the live chat. We've got Thomas, who says, Eze is a wild footballer, exactly what we need. Android says, if you can't like this pod, there's something wrong with you, or you're a Spurs fan. Yes, please leave a like on the video. It really, really does help. Junior says, come on, guys, smash that like and subscribe. Like Berta smashed Spurs. Minimod Guna says, did anybody watch O'Hara meltdown on TalkSport? It was pure magic from a bitter Spurs fan up the Arsenal. I've seen the clip of it that's going around. I have seen the clip of it, and it is brilliant stuff, isn't it? It's fantastic to watch. I actually go on that show quite a bit with Jason Cundy and Jamie O'Hara, and I get a lot of stick from them both. They're both top tier wind up merchants, but I have to say that they're really good guys. And actually watching O'Hara meltdown, it did make me chuckle. I think I watched it twice. JMD Video says, when Ornstein speaks, the world listens. Stephen says it was a street mugging in North London. It certainly will feel like that if you're a Tottenham supporter. DJ Ash B says, what a difference 24 hours makes. That's the kind of really fascinating thing about this, isn't it? Like yesterday, we woke up in the morning baffled by the decision to provide Leandro Trossard with better contract terms, but no extension. And then shortly after that, we heard that Kai Havertz has picked up this injury. And I have to touch on this because there is a lot of celebration and jubilation out there because Arsenal are closing in on a player that we all want, a player that we all believe will improve this team. Some would tell you to the point where we're now favourites to win the Premier League. I wouldn't have said that was the case prior to signing Eberechi Eze. I'm still not sure I want to commit to that statement right now, but it certainly, gives us a much better chance, and it's certainly got our rivals on alert. I've seen Liverpool fans and Manchester City supporters online over the course of the last sort of 12 hours saying, well, this is the game changer. This is the one that makes Arsenal the favourites. This is the signing that would push them over the line and get them over the line and all the rest of it. I'm not sure that I want to put that level of kind of conviction on any statement right now. I will talk about what this does for the expectation levels and what this means for the squad and the transfer window. We'll do that throughout this show. But I think it's really, really, really important that we don't, in all our excitement and in all the buzz, forget that we've lost a really, really key squad player now in Kai Havertz to an injury. And, for him, it must be an absolute sickener. He picked up that injury around about, what was it, January time last season, or it was just after the January window closed, wasn't it? He missed the remainder of the campaign, got himself back fit for the last couple of games, made a couple of appearances, and, had fought really, really hard, basically, to recover from that hamstring problem as quickly as he did. He had to have surgery. It wasn't nice. It was a long way back, a long road back. And he comes back, and obviously then Victor Gyökeres comes in and essentially takes his position. But I think Kai Havertz is the ultimate pro, and I don't think he would have, thrown his toys out the pram about that. But, he's got an opportunity still to have a big impact and to work his way back to his best. And then boom, one game into the season, he picks up this knee injury. Now, that's kind of my point. I don't want to overlook the fact that we've lost Kai Havertz, and I don't want to ignore that our player needs our support in a really difficult moment and at a really difficult time, because we are so gassed about the Eze signing, which we should be, by the way. But let's not forget why we've made this signing. Now, I'm not saying that we had no intention of doing this prior to Kai Havertz's injury, because I don't know that. And we'll touch on some reporting from Miguel Delaney a little bit later on, in which he claims that actually the framework for this deal was already in place, that it was in place from as early as August the 10th, in which case Arsenal would have intended to do this anyway. But I do think, and I do feel like actually the Kai Havertz injury has played some part in at least giving Arsenal just that little nudge that they needed to kind of put their foot on the accelerator and really progress with that. But we'll get onto that a little bit later on the show. The point is, let's not forget that we've lost the key player. I'm not saying be a Debbie Downer and don't enjoy the buzz and the hype and the excitement around this Eberechi Eze signing. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is let's not forget that we've lost the key player, and let's not completely ignore what's happened there. We're still waiting for details on how severe that injury is. I fear the worst. I really, really do. I think a best case scenario here would be, 3 months on the sidelines. Because if indeed it has pushed Arsenal to go and do this level of business and make this level of investment, then you have to feel like it's quite bad. If Kai Havertz's injury comes back in terms of the scans and all the analysis, and they say 3 months, but they've also gone and spent up to 65, 68 million quid on Eberechi Eze, then I think it would be fair to assume that Arsenal were going to do this anyway, or had an intention to do this anyway. So let's see how this all pans out. Andy says, Eze is one of the best standstill dribblers in the league. I'm so happy. What else have we got? Owen Young says the balloons were literally prepping their announcement videos. Mad Has says, at last, I beg your pardon, I'm happy with this transfer window. Get in. Hambo says, Schaden, what is it called? Schadenfreudelicious. That's what he's trying to say. I couldn't pronounce that for a second. Jack says, we are so back. Nicholas says, listening to you from France. Thank you for being so understandable to me. Thank you for tuning in, mate. And love to everybody joining us from all over the world, wherever it is you're tuning in from. Afsar says, I was watching Chicken FC, crying all night. Oh, man. Wonder Minstrel says, Harry, what a steal. Robert says, a very good, easy day morning. Absolutely. Love all this. Sunil says, great news about Eze, and even better to get one over the spuds. Hit the like button, everyone, says Ryan Arsenal. Subscribe and have a nice day. Yes, please. Jid says, Harry has been manifesting this move for the longest time. Good addition to the squad, but I'm not as giddy as a lot of fans who wanted him for no other reason than hopping on bandwagons. Brilliant signing, over the moon. However, I do think we need to bring in another one due to Kai's injury. While Marino can do a job, I don't want to rely on him. What's your thoughts? So yeah, look, I've wanted this signing for a long time, so of course I'm going to be happy. A lot of people have wanted this signing for a while. It's not just me, and so you can understand why there's been this kind of outpouring of celebration and emotion over the last sort of 12 hours as we've seen this deal really rapidly accelerate. And that's another thing. That's another element to this. The way Arsenal have sort of put their foot down and just gone for this, as far as we're aware, anyway, it's just remarkable. You know, it was like 1 hour we get from Ornstein that we've made our approach, and then an hour later it's like it's agreed, and then an hour later it's like the personal terms are sorted, and then an hour after that it's like medical booked. Like it's really kind of accelerated rapidly. Do I believe that it has been done in this really short period of time? I don't know. I think the fact that it all seemed to snowball so quickly, as far as we were aware, makes me wonder if Miguel Delaney has a point. Like, was this already in the pipeline and we just didn't know about it? As I said, I don't really know. I don't think too many people out there really know. I will take all reports with a pinch of salt, so as not to kind of differentiate between certain journalists or say that this person's better than that person or whatever. But obviously David Ornstein is like the goat, he's the guy. And so people are going to go with his version of events over other people's, and that is completely understandable. Do we need another player due to Kai's injury? Yeah, look, in an ideal world, but again, it depends on Kai's injury, doesn't it? If Kai's going to be out for 3 months, then I think we're okay. I think we can get by. Obviously, Trossard is staying put, who I don't think is particularly good there, but is a false nine option. Ethan Nwaneri will be seen as a false nine option to Mikel Arteta. You or I might not agree with that, but he will see it that way. Martinelli could go inside. Marino has shown that he can do it as well. So with Victor Gyökeres in through the door as well, obviously the need is less urgent than it would have been at this same stage last season. But I mean, I think if we get Eze in, I think realistically, I don't think you can ask much more from Arsenal Football Club. Like, I just don't. Like, I've been on record throughout the course of the summer on many occasions, and I've talked about the transfer window, and I've had a lot of people say to me, you know what, Harry, you've turned really negative. You've been really kind of out of order in your analysis of some of the business that we've done. And my opinion throughout the window was this, right? The signings of Kepa, Mosquera, Norgard, and Madueke, they brought depth to the squad. But only really Zubimendi and Gyökeres, as far as I saw it, were making a major difference to our starting 11, right? Those were the two players that I felt could potentially be needle movers. A lot of people believe that Zubimendi is going to be a big time upgrade on Partey, and we're going to see that over time. And having that out and out number 9 and the guy who scored the most goals in Europe last season in Victor Gyökeres, well, that should improve Arsenal's attack, right? So people were looking at those signings, and some people were framing it in one way and going, well, we got 6 players in. It's a fantastic window. Others were looking and going, like myself, we got 6 players in, but only 2 of them are classed as needle movers. Now, obviously, you need depth, and having depth will serve you well. And I think we really learnt that the hard way last season. But I think for me, I always had that feeling that we just needed one more needle mover. Just one more. Eberechi Eze is absolutely one of those. And so if this gets over the line, and it sounds like it will, my outlook on our window overall, it changes. Up until today, I saw it as a good, solid window. Now, with this very, very close to being completed, I see this as an excellent window. And I don't really think you can realistically ask any more of Arsenal Football Club than what we've seen over the course of the summer. There's a pressure and an expectation that comes with that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I think if you add Eze into the mix and into the equation, I don't know what more realistically you could have asked of Arsenal. I just don't. Nifty Legend says there is a feeling that Havertz will be out for less than 3 months. I hope this is true and it's not too serious. I hope so too. Tanvir says, hey guys, buzzing on the signing. We must not sleep. Now sell the ones that we need to sell. And if there is room, get one more in. I hope the next 24 to 48 hours for a medical to be done and it can be announced at the Emirates. It would be lovely if he's paraded at the Emirates, wouldn't it? ahead of the Leeds game coming up at the weekend. Let's see what else you guys are saying. I'll pick out a couple more comments, and then we'll just rattle through some points that I want to make, and then we'll jump back into the chat box again. Don't worry, because there is so much reaction to this. Android Mafia says, "Is this buzz better than the Ozil moment?" Oh, I don't know about that, because that also came out of the blue, didn't it? And there wasn't those links previously, and obviously Mesut Ozil at the time was honestly at the top of his game. Like, that was quite the steal, wasn't it? The way we were able to do that. I remember sort of watching it on Sky Sports News. That's how we used to follow stuff back then. There was less on social media, and it was just fantastic moment. I don't know if I can compare them. T Down Under, thank you so much, mate, for your very, very kind super chat. Really do appreciate it. He says, a few days ago, I was worried about Eze's goals and assists in the North London derby. Problem solved now. Yep, any goals or assists are going to come in the famous red and white now. So, really, really excited about that. Apparently, the medical is due to take place on Friday. There is a game that Crystal Palace are involved in tonight. And I don't know if Eze is going to play in that. You know, I saw a lot of stuff online, people saying that, he's going to play, others saying that he's not going to play. I honestly, I don't really know. I think if I was Crystal Palace, I'd want him to play, because they want to give themselves the best possible chance of progressing through. They want to get into the Europa Conference League proper. They've had to kind of deal with the disappointment of being demoted from the Europa League for, in my opinion, unfair reasons. It's not unfair in the sense of if you follow the letter of the law, but I just feel like, it's quite clear that John Textor didn't have a controlling stake, yet for whatever reason, UEFA don't want to see that, or the CAS don't want to see that either. It went to them too. So lots to unpack, lots to get through as we work our way through today's stream. DJ Suti says, did Eze feature on your spreadsheet on likelihood of signings earlier in the window, Harry? If so, how did you rate this deal? Oh, do you know what? I can't remember if he did. Hold on, I'm just bringing it up. Eberechi Eze, he did, and I had him at a 4 out of 10. Which is embarrassing on my part. So I didn't think this was realistic at that point. And I think, not to defend myself, but I think at the time I did this, we were talking about out and out wingers. And I think the wingers that I had on that list, to be fair, I had Nico Williams at 5 out of 10. I had Anthony Gordon at 3 out of 10 in terms of likelihood. I had Kudus at 1 out of 10. Eberechi Eze, I had him at 4 out of 10. So I didn't, at that point, right at the start of the window, think it was likely. And as the window went on, I kind of flip-flopped a little bit on that, because I sort of got to the point where I was like, yeah, this is happening. I'm convinced that as soon as that release clause expires, we're going to be straight in there and we're going to try and make this happen. But then over the last week or two, I started to get the kind of feeling that maybe the ship had sailed, and maybe we weren't going to make the move that we were all hoping for. But obviously we have. Again, I think we can debate how significant the Kai Havertz injury has been in this. Has that been the catalyst for Arsenal sort of really kind of accelerating their efforts to sign Eberechi Eze, or, as Miguel Delaney says, we're Arsenal in already? Not sure. Afshin has sent in a super chat. Thank you so much, mate. Really, really do appreciate your support of the channel. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's explore a bit about what Miguel Delaney had to say on this, shall we? Because I think there's some really interesting nuggets in this, and I think it's a really interesting story, actually. Hold on, let me bring up the quotes. There we go. Cool. Okay, I've got them up on the screen. Let's take a really short pause. And when we come back, we'll work our way through that. We'll continue to take your thoughts, your reaction to the big news that Eberechi Eze is closing in on a move to Arsenal. Medical is supposedly set for Friday. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. If you haven't done it already, like and subscribe. Don't like the live chat, like the actual video itself, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. It really, really does help. If you're an Apple listener, please do leave us a review. If you're a Spotify listener, please do leave us a review as well. All of that stuff really, really, really does help. Okay, let's get back to it then. Let's talk Miguel Delaney's report in the Independent. So this came out shortly after we kind of got those really exciting updates from David Ornstein. Miguel Delaney reported this: the Independent can now reveal that Arsenal actually struck the principles of an agreement with Crystal Palace for Eberechi Eze as early as the morning of Sunday, the 10th of August. Now, on Sunday, the 10th of August, I went to a restaurant with some friends. My friend came with his family. He is a massive Arsenal fan, season ticket holder like me. And we were sitting there and we were discussing whether or not Arsenal were going to do this. We had the deepest, longest, at times passionate conversation that you could possibly have. And there was frustration among us because at that point, we felt like Arsenal weren't going to push and bring in that extra attacking player that we all felt we needed. So if you were telling me that Arsenal had this intention all of that time and that my dinner was ruined because of the heated nature of that debate that we had, all the while Arsenal were in the background chatting with Crystal Palace, I'm going to laugh. Tottenham's negotiations for Eberechi Eze had encountered repeated difficulties over the last few days, and there were constant hold-ups. There is now a belief, especially within Spurs, that Crystal Palace was stalling and waiting for Arsenal to come back. He then goes on to say there is a hope that Kai Havertz's absence won't be that long, potentially less than 3 months. He also says Crystal Palace's chairman, Steve Parish, and Arsenal vice chairman, Tim Lewis, have a close relationship, even if they often bicker. They WhatsApp a lot about regulations and other in-game issues that helped with negotiations, especially given their earlier agreement. Arsenal have players they can offer that Crystal Palace need. It is possible that a deal is done for Jakub Kivior, given Palace's need for a centre-half on that side, but that would be a separate deal. Okay, and clubs prefer to do separate deals now for PSR reasons, as we've learned over the last few years. This thing, like sometimes you hear people say, oh, well, we could do a swap deal. We could let X player go, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't really happen anymore for PSR reasons. That might be part of the conversation and a part of the negotiation, but the transactions are often done separately now in order to satisfy the PSR needs. So look, I guess we don't actually know whether or not this was something that was in place before. I think when you read the story from Miguel, you can believe it because of how quickly things accelerated. But if you go by what Fabrizio Romano and what David Ornstein are saying, then it was a lastminute.com. Let's ramp this up and get it over the line and get it done as quickly as possible, which is certainly a lot more exciting than the idea that we did this 11 days ago, or that the agreement was struck up 11 days ago and we've kind of been sitting on it. But then that kind of says that Arsenal had the intention already, whereas what we've read from Fabrizio and from David, it kind of suggests that the Kai Havertz injuries played a big role here. So you can choose to read this in any which way you want, I suppose. And it's an interesting debate and sort of question to raise. I don't know any better than any of these people that are reporting it. So I'm not going to sit here and say he's right, he's wrong. Nope, not going to do that because I don't know any better than any of them. The Spurs meltdowns, my God, like they've just been box office, man. Like box office. Those two lads on, is it called We Are Tottenham TV? I mean, they have been box office for years, haven't they? The amount of clips I've seen of those two flying around on social media, head losses galore. They've been popping up on my feed this morning. There was a video of them talking about how the Eze thing was done and it was all set, and he's an Arsenal player, I beg your pardon, a Tottenham player, and all the rest of it. And just watching the fallout has been incredible. Shout out to everybody that's been making those compilations. They've been keeping me occupied. I woke up really early this morning and started scrolling through, having gone to bed really late last night because I couldn't put my phone down, sort of watching these videos and really kind of enjoying them. I do have a question for you guys. And if you are interested and you want to jump on, feel free to do so. We'll do that for the last segment of the show. What I'll do is I'll just pin a link in there. Let's see if anyone's interested. If not, like, I know it's very last minute. I know people are working and all the rest of it, but I'm going to pin the link to the top of the chat, because the question I want to ask you guys, and I'll have my say on it first. Well, hopefully some of you join. If you don't, I'll look a bit silly, won't I? And I'll have to end the stream in embarrassment. But I guess my question is, right, what does this do in terms of the expectation? Because I've already talked about how, for me, this really moves the needle, right? Bringing in someone like Eberechi Eze takes the transfer window from a solid 7 out of 10, which is probably how I would have rated it previously, to a 9. Like, it really does make that much difference, just this one signing, because I've said that the Madueke signing looks better with Eze coming in. You know, the kind of the first 11 looks better with Eze coming in. Because for me, and there'll be debate and conversation about this, and there'll be some games where it works and some games where maybe it's not the right way to go. But for me, he comes in on that left-hand side and he plays that left winger role in a different way to what we've seen from Martinelli or Trossard, but he comes in and he does that and he does it well. And that makes our 11 better. It gives us more creativity. It gives us more quality in the final third. So I think it's a real needle mover, this. It's a real needle mover. And with that comes greater expectation. And with greater expectation comes a pressure. And there is now going to be more scrutiny, you'd imagine, on Mikel Arteta. This is the first time with this signing that I've looked at it and gone, do you know what? We really do, and I can say this with confidence, have the squad now to go on and win the Premier League. Like in the past, I felt that we were in the mix, obviously, because, you know, we challenged. But there was always a couple of areas that you looked at and you went, that's a potential problem for us. You know, that's a potential issue for us. So to have done this now and to look at the squad as it is, knowing that we're not going to lose Leandro Trossard, I don't think, because we've just given him an improved contract. And I find it difficult to believe that we would have done that just for him to join someone else. We've got Martinelli still knocking about. We've got Gabby Jesus to come back. Kai Havertz hopefully won't be out for too long. We've got Eze and we've got Gyökeres. The Madueke signing, as I say, looks much, much better for Eze coming in. When you factor all of that in, you look at the way we've regenerated the midfield and added depth there. You think about what we've done in the back line. We've brought in Christian Mosquera, who I'm really excited about. We've bought as good a backup goalkeeper as you could possibly find for that sort of money. I think we've done some really, really good business. But as I keep saying, with expectation comes a pressure. With pressure, you're going to get meltdowns after disappointing results. And it's all going to be, I think, a bit of a pressure cooker of an environment now for Arsenal over the course of the season, in a good way, right? You want to be in the mix. You want to be challenging for the biggest trophies and the biggest honours. But I'm interested to get people's thoughts on what this does to the expectation now around Arsenal for this campaign. We've got off to a great start. We've gone to Old Trafford. Haven't played particularly well, but we've beaten them. We've beaten Manchester United at Old Trafford, which is never a result to be sniffed at. Can we build on that now? And does this signing, which hopefully, we'll be in a position to kind of announce maybe by the start of next week, does this signing just raise the excitement levels again? I'm sure it does that. But does raising the excitement levels bring a pressure that might weigh us down? That's the question I'm asking. I'm not saying that that's exactly how I view it and how I see it. You want to be in these positions. But I just want to ask that question. How do people think this changes the expectation around Arsenal? And I'm delighted to say that we've got some callers lined up. So let's start with Benny. Benny, welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, mate. Just remind everybody where you're joining us from, my friend.
Hi, Harry. I'm calling from Berlin, Germany.
Brilliant. I love the background as well. That's fantastic. Go on, mate. What do you want to say? How do you think the Eberechi Eze signing impacts the expectation around Arsenal now for this season?
Wow. I think I'm a really like staunch supporter of Arteta and the progress he's made with our team. But now I have to say, in this like transfer market, I think there are no excuses. He has to win something. I think. I know a conversation can be had about like where we finish and the permutations of the where we finish in the cup competitions or the league, the things we are entering in. But I think now with the team better or the board have provided him, I think he had it. He should have the ability to win something this season. For me, in terms of like what we have, I was really happy with the backup we have we had against Man United, where we're not looking to the youth team to bring in like players off the bench there. Like literally everybody in the subs were strong. And I'm hoping this carries on to the like later phases of the Champions League and the later phases of the league. So my expectation now is that the board have done everything, the Cronkies have done everything to give him the ability to win. Well, not everything, because we would have loved obviously Isaac in this transfer market, but he's going elsewhere. But they've done almost everything that we could have asked of them. So now we just need the ability to win. And to be fair, Harry, nobody's, like you said, I think the other day, you said our business isn't finished yet. So maybe, I know we have a lot of sales to accomplish within the last few weeks of the window, but maybe there might be a Rodrigo loan somewhere in there.
You're getting carried away, Benny. You're getting carried away, mate.
To be fair, come on, Harry. To be fair, when we were like saying about Eze, you were like, oh, I'm not sure it's going to be a 4 out of 10. Now, if we say Rodrigo, we can kind of also manifest it. We never know. But yes. And then I think one thing, just two other points, because I know there are a lot of people in the.
Yeah, go for it, mate.
One point is that I like the window. And one of the reasons why I like the window is it says we are faithful to our Hayland, the project, but it also says we are a bit more ruthless now. If we can't, I love our youth players. I follow the under 18s and the under 21 teams, but we need to kind of have this like focus where if a player is not getting to where we want to, we have a level where we want our under 21 players or under 18 players to hit. And if they are not there, because there are a lot of them that used to be in the in the under 21s and the under 18s, then we just need to kind of start getting rid and trying to identify the best prospect for us, because like mediocrity or like phase 7 or phase 6 or whatever phase people say we are on, we are no more on those phases. We are the top now, and we want the top quality. So these are where we need to be, I guess, hitting.
Agreed.
So well, the last point, we can't say we are like one or two players away now. Like the team is like there. This team is capable of winning. For me, the team is capable of winning something. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the expectation is there now. Expectation can take away enjoyment. Let's be honest, because there's a pressure that comes with having that expectation. But as you said, I think we've gone out and done everything we could have done. Realistically, I think the club have shown us that they do want to win. And I've questioned that in the past. I've looked at them and gone, you keep telling me that you want to win, and you keep telling me to be excited, and you keep telling me that you're going to do everything within your power to get over the line. But do your actions actually show that? And I think last summer's window was a big frustration for a lot of us. The January window was a big frustration for a lot of us. Arsenal have gone out and they've done everything we can realistically expect for them from them this time around. So I'm happy, I'm buzzing, I'm excited, but I'm a little bit nervous as well, because as I say, the expectation raises. Benny, thank you so much, mate. I'm going to move on just because I've got plenty of people to get through. Really appreciate your call.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, mate. That was Benny joining us from Berlin in Germany. Let's bring in Android Mafia. Here he is. Look at him celebrating. Remind people where you're joining us from, mate, before you have your say.
All right, mate. Yeah, joining from Ireland. And what a day. What a morning. I hope
Brilliant.
everybody's buzzing in the chat. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good.
Good.
I've had a bit of a late night. You could probably see it in my face.
I couldn't sleep.
I'm absolutely knackered. I spent like hours and hours and hours just scrolling through social media and looking at a combination of Eze hype content and Tottenham meltdown.
Tottenham meltdowns, man.
And yeah, I mean, I need to check on my friend who I mentioned on the pod the other day because he was in a bad way last night after all this materialized. When I sort of went back to him and said, "I told you this was going to happen." So yeah, but go on, mate. Have your say. What do you think about the expectation levels and how that impacts us moving forward?
I mean, look, I joined you a couple of weeks ago when we did the ratings. I think it was out of 50, and I said that we were short, and I named Eze as the player that we needed, and I've tried to stay balanced through the whole preseason, through all the transfer rumors, and the guys in the chat who are regulars, they'll know I've tried to kind of keep it level. I'm really struggling with this one. I'm really buzzing. I think from a couple of different aspects. Like, first of all, he's quality, right? You can't not sign quality if it's there and if it's available. Even if you don't necessarily have the space in the team, you have to bring the quality players in. But the options he gives us, stylistic changes, he's dynamic. You can play him left, you can play him at 8, you can play him at 10. I think this is a game changer for our season. I truly do. And I tweeted last night that, or X'd, or whatever they call it these days.
They call it
yeah, I think we win the league with this signing. Look, I mean, I know that there's a lot that will still happen. You got to pray for a bit of luck. I feel really bad for Kai, and I hope that is the, A, it's a quick recovery, and B, the only bad injury that we get for the next couple of months. But look, if everything goes our way, I think we're in the driving seat. I think this changes everything.
Yeah, me too. I think it's the signing that moves the needle.
Yeah,
and I think, and as I've said, and I've explained this throughout the transfer window, and honestly, it's so funny for me on a personal level, right? Because over the course of the last season, when I was saying, like, look, we've got injuries, we've got problems that are at times been beyond our control. I think Mikel Arteta played a part in the injuries, because I think we overplayed players, right? And I think there was things that we could learn and things that we could do better. But I kept saying, like, for me, you're telling me that we signed Christian Norgard, and I'm like, yeah, good squad depth, but it didn't excite me. Neither did Kepa. Neither did
good players, but not game changers.
Players, but not game changers. Exactly that. And the amount of stick I've had, and people saying, "Oh my God, you've gone all clickbaity and you've gone all sort of angry because you want to sort of just drum up views and all the rest of it." And I sort of I found that really, really draining. But it was always with the caveat of, well, go out and show me then. Go out and get this guy that's going to be a game changer.
Yeah.
Go out and do the bit of business that's going to make this attack what it needs to be. And this transfer absolutely does that. Go on, mate. I'll let you have one final say before I move on, just because I've got a few people waiting.
Yeah, no, that I'll keep it short. I mean, look, for me, and everybody who's a regular again will know, I'm big on the Zubamendi train, right? For me, he was the one needle mover. Gyökeres, I'm really happy we brought in Gyökeres, but I do harbor I'm reserving my opinion. I think he's a very good player, but for me, he wasn't the needle mover. This one is.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Love it. That's interesting. That's a really, really interesting way to finish. Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate the love and support as always, man. All the best, and I'll speak to you soon. Brilliant stuff. Let's bring in Rob. Rob, just remind people where you're joining us from. I know where you're joining us from, but let the listeners know.
Coming from New Zealand, Aotearoa. It's what's the time now? It's 9:45 in the evening at the moment. I've just come back from an art class, so yeah. Thought I'd jump on.
Go on, mate. What do you want to say? How are you feeling? I can see by the big smile on your face, it says it all.
I mean, I am stoked. I think Eze is a class player. I think the taste of the Spud salty tears is one of the highlights of this transfer. Definitely. I think, you know, I wondered this season what it was going to be like with the Spurs fans and the fact that they won a trophy last season. But I think this kind of gives us a bit of ammunition, you know.
Oh, for sure.
I think my sort of buzziness is slightly more than slightly tempered, if I'm honest, with Havertz, with Kai's injury, because I mean, at this stage, I'm hopeful that it's not as serious as you know, maybe we were led to believe initially. I think it's interesting that the injury came on, and within a few hours, we basically hijacked the move, which worries me, if I'm honest, a little bit. Like, that makes me wonder, you know, how serious could this injury be? And if it's the knee, is it linked with the ACL from before? I think that's quite a deep concern for me, because I think one of the things people are missing, right, is that we've been crying out for.
Has he had an ACL before? I thought it was a hamstring injury last season, was it not?
Okay, sorry.
Or has he had one in the past?
Yeah, it was a long-term injury, and it's, you know, on the leg. So yeah, maybe it wasn't an ACL. So I think we just need to reserve judgment a little bit until we get more information from the medical team, right? But I think my concern is, like, obviously we're crying out for a number 9, and I think Gyökeres is going to be good, but I think the match against United really showed what the levels are. I mean, I get it. He's not really had a pre-season. He wasn't really training. Like, he'd done an Isaac and down tools a little bit himself, hadn't he? Although we're not bothered about that because we've got him. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think his fitness is quite up there, and obviously, he'd probably only had 10 days worth of kind of tactical stuff with Arteta in the team. So I get all of that, but the point being is that, you know, going from the Portuguese league to the Premiership is such a big step, and the level of the tactics that he would have got from Sporting versus what he's got to kind of get into his mind from Arteta, I think is levels, right? So that's going to take some time. He's obviously got to develop those relationships with the other members of the team as well, which is going to take time. And he's got to get used to the physicality and, you know, the quality of the defenders that he's playing against, which I think is going to take time. So for me, the fact that we had Havertz was like our backup, was like we can keep the levels high whilst giving Gyökeres the time and the sort of headspace and less pressure to kind of get used to all of these things. So now I'm very concerned, I have to say, because two things. Imagine if Kai's out for 3 months, as was suggested.
Yep.
And Gyökeres is then having to play, you know, 90 minutes after 90 minute after 90 minute. And this is maybe a question that I want to ask you a little bit, is I wonder whether maybe Martinelli might be, you know, Arteta might give him the chance to go into number 9 position. I'm sure Mourinho will kind of, you know, sub in there again as well. And obviously Trossard played false 9, not so much last season, but the season before, right? When we had injuries, I think. But yeah, I think I just wonder. So suggesting Kai's out for 3 months and then Gyökeres is playing 90 after 90. 2 things. What happens if he gets injured? We're back to kind of last season, right?
Can you frame it in a slightly different way, though? Can you say that without Kai Havertz breathing down his neck, that maybe Victor Gyökeres will feel a little bit more like, I don't need to impress straight away. I can relax a little bit because I haven't got this guy breathing down my neck. And actually, this is my position now. and I'm going to make it my own without that pressure. Because if you think about the Raya Ramsdale situation, right? Raya was crap at the beginning. Let's be honest, right? All right, maybe crap is a little bit strong, but he was making mistakes. He was shaky. He was nervous. The minute Ramsdale left the club and he was like, well, this is my role, it all changed and he seemed much more calmer. So I think you've made some really good points about Gyökeres's adaptation and the things that he needs to get right and the things that he needs to adjust to. But I look at that Man United game, the 60 or so minutes that he played, and I can come up with so many reasons that weren't his responsibility for why I think he struggled. I think we didn't play the ball into him early enough. We weren't aware of what his movement was going to look like, and that's going to come with time, and we're going to have to build that relationship. I think he was in a real physical battle against De Ligt, who is very, very powerful. I thought the atmosphere at Old Trafford was a big one. I've been there probably 10, 12 times in my life. And I reckon that was as good an atmosphere as I've experienced there at the start of the game in terms of how they were backing their players and getting into the Arsenal players. So we'll see. But I get what you're saying. Like we can't overlook the fact that we've lost a big player, and that might be the reason that Arsenal have gone and done this Eze deal, because we've lost Havertz. But Rob,
I mean, I think I get your point, sort of saying, you know, could there be the argument be made for less pressure? Sure, possibly, but obviously I think a lot depends on how quickly he gets up to speed, because that was going to be my second point. You know, Havertz isn't in. What happens if it takes him a while to get up to speed and he doesn't score? I mean, you know, this is all hypothetical, right? It's all pie in the sky. But if he doesn't score for like 3, 4, 5 games, the pressure mounts.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, and there's no one to relieve the pressure. Well, I mean, there's Marino and, like I said, maybe Martinelli, but there's not a second number 9 to relieve the pressure off of him. And I don't know. I that just gives me, I would be way more positive, and like I am buzzing still for Eze. I think he's great, but I would be buzzing more if
we had Kai Havertz as well. That's fair.
Let's hope in the next few days, like, we find out that the injury is not as serious, and we can kind of like give Gyökeres 60 minutes and then bring on Marino or Martinelli or Trossard in the false 9 and relieve a bit of pressure, and then Kai can come back and they can share the role for a bit. But I just worry a little bit. Maybe I'm too much of a worrier.
No, that's fair. I just think as a football club, when you're squad building, there's only so much you can account for this type of stuff. Like if we had 3 number 9s, we would have been like, oh, well, how are we going to get them all game time? You have 2, but then you're only 1 injury away from relying on 1. So I just think it's a really hard thing to plan for. Rob, thank you so much, mate. Going to move on just so I can get through all of the callers that are currently waiting. Thank you again for joining us, mate. All the best. Goodbye. Cheers. That was Rob joining us from New Zealand. Let's bring in Suti, who's been waiting patiently. How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Not bad, thank you. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Buzzing, as I say. Been watching Tottenham meltdown content.
Yeah, same. I think everyone was, right. Everyone was sitting on X and on all the socials. You know, not necessarily looking for Arsenal content, but more Tottenham content of the meltdowns and stuff. It's been brilliant. But to your question, I mean, I've been calling for Eze even since last season. When summer transfers started, I was calling out to my mates, listen, we need either Elise or Eze or both, because they're fantastic. Obviously, Elise went to Bayern and Eze stayed put. Start of this season, I had 3 players in my mind who were, none of them were linked with Arsenal, but I'm a massive believer in like Premier League proven, because they know the league, you know what you're getting because you see them week in, week out. You play against them as well, you know, twice a season, etc. So I had 3 players in my mind that I thought, or the style of player that we should go for. Eze being one, Joe Linton instead of a Norgard type of signing, and a Garnacho for the wing rather than a Madueke. They were my kind of 3, like Premier League proven, you know, kind of, you know, Garnacho fallen out, etc. So for the Eze stuff, I'm absolutely buzzing. Does he elevate a team? 100% in terms of his ability, his skill, his technique, what he can bring to the team. Obviously, he's now another proven winner, you know, having won the FA Cup and the Community Shield. So it brings that mentality as well. Again, the link-up play with obviously all the other England players, so Rice, Saka, Madueke, all of that, almost instantly has relationships already built with some of the players. As for like the rest of the signings and what we've done, I think it's really important to remember. So with the Gyökeres talk, obviously there's been lots to talk about. He looked rubbish against United. He's not looked great in pre-season. Blah blah blah. He played like 75 minutes in pre-season. He played 60 minutes against United. But I think it's really important to remember that it took Henry 8 games to score a goal for Arsenal when he first joined. And when we signed Dennis Bergkamp as well, there were calls and newspaper articles from Stuart Pearce and stuff saying, Bergkamp's rubbish, get rid of him, blah, 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 what waste of money. So these players that come in from abroad, they do need time. We all know that that is the case. It's frustrating. And I think what adds to the frustration is when you see other players coming in from abroad kicking off straight away. So, Ekitike, I know you were massive on him, so was I. He would have been a massive needle mover again had we got him instead of Madueke. Imagine Ekitike, Gyökeres, now Eze. I mean, that is a Champions League winning lineup and stuff. So it's frustrating, when I watch Liverpool, not the way Liverpool won the game, but more so just watching Ekitike and how seamlessly he just slotted in and looked like he'd been there for years. Gyökeres hasn't given us that first impression, but I think he's, we've got to give him time to build into the squad, as everyone else has said, get fitness, get into Arteta's, style of play and thinking and all the rest of it and what have you. But as a squad, we've definitely elevated the levels or, raised the floor, as you said before. We've definitely raised the bar with some of these signings, and Eze is definitely one of those. So, there's a lot to be excited about. As far as injuries are concerned, listen, we all hope there's no injuries to any players, or especially no long-term injuries. But like you said, you can't have 16 players in every position just in case for injuries.
Yeah,
so I think that the one, so if we're talking about questions, the only question I have, and would be interesting to see this year, again, I think you've touched on it in some of your pods as well, is around how does Arteta adapt this season? So not just bringing in players, but in terms of his coaching, his tactics, his plan B or even plan C, because we've seen it now for 2 or 3 seasons, and potentially, that could be the reason why we've not got over the line. But his tactics are very same. So he'll take off Martinelli, bring on Trossard, or vice versa. He'll take off Saka, bring on Nwaneri. He'll take off Ben White, bring on Timber. It's all same. Nothing changes if we're chasing the game. If it's 0-0 and we're chasing the win, or if we're losing 1-0 and we're chasing, even with half an hour to go and we're losing 1-0, there doesn't seem to be that urgency to change things up. So I know we compare to Stoke with the whole long throws and corners and long balls and stuff like that, but ultimately if you look at the way, again I pick on Liverpool and City as well, you look at the way when they're urgent, when they increase their urgency, they do go forward, they do switch the pass, they do switch from left to right. I mean, Mason Mount was probably the best player on the pitch last week, bar Cunha, with some of his passes and stuff. We don't seem to do that. We play this U-shaped football and it's all very calculated, and let's not give the ball away, let's keep the ball. But by doing 3 or 4 passes to get it from left to right, we allow the other team to shuffle across, and then actually Saka's then got 3. Whereas if you switch it first time, he's one-on-one, he's got a lot more space. And we see that sometimes. So I'm interested to see how Arteta uses these players, not necessarily just, bringing them in and who's going to play where. Is Eze going to play on the left? Is he going to take off, I don't know, Rice or Zubimendi and play him in that left day, or Odegaard, whatever.
Ooh.
But actually, is he going to change up the system? So if we're chasing the game, take off one of the defenders and bring on another midfielder or attacker. So go 3 at the back. We generally play 3 at the back anyway, because one of them inverts naturally, usually from the left, but actually taking off a Calafiori or Miles Lewis-Skelly, for example, and leaving, say, Timber, Saliba and Gabriel, but having Eze, Rice, Zubimendi, Odegaard, Madueke, Saka and Gyökeres. I mean, if we can't score a goal with all those players on the pitch, then, what are we doing? So buzzing, absolutely buzzing. There's absolutely no excuses now for us to, not challenge the league, not go far in the Champions League and even the cup competitions. I want to see Arteta go for all 4, because we've got the squad to rotate now. Previous years he's not focused on the Carabao Cup, go out early. FA Cup, it's almost like he's written that off as well, because his just main focus has been on the Premier League and the Champions League. I want him now to really focus on, I'm not saying playing best team in every competition, but we've got, like you say, a better squad now. 2 or 3 players who can play in every position. There's really no reason why we can't do well and challenge across all fronts. I'm not saying go and win the quadruple. That's what I'm saying. I'm being realistic, but at least challenge. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's no excuse now of him not having players that he trusts to be able to get that done. Because he does have that squad now. It's taken some time, it's taken some years to get there, but he is there now, and he's got that group and he's got that squad. Suti, thank you very much, mate. I'm going to move on just so we can wrap up with our final caller. Really appreciate your patience, and thanks for tuning in every day, man. All the best. See you soon, mate. Bye. That was Suti joining us. Let's bring in our final caller, Stephen, who's been waiting very, very patiently. How you doing, mate? Welcome back to the show. Just remind people where you're joining us from.
Yeah, just calling from Bedford in the Midlands, mate. Good to be back on the show. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming, mate. Thanks for coming on. Go on. What do you think? What's your take on this this question that I posed? Does this sign-in now kind of really up the stakes and add a pressure to Arsenal? Do you buy it when people are online saying, well, now Arsenal have to win the league?
I've never personally liked that question in the sense of, again, I know, but it's just, we're not the only team vying for this title. There are other teams with exceptionally good players who have also had good windows. I don't think there is no team in this league that has a God-given right to say we're going to win the league this season. But what I do think this signing does, I think potentially for the first time, maybe, or certainly in the Emirates era, potentially ever, it feels like the first window we've identified and addressed every area of the squad that had a potential weakness or needed a player coming in for. I'm personally absolutely buzzing over this as a signing. I think, him coming on that left-hand side, I think it gives us a balance to our front three that we haven't had really for a while. We've been so sort of lopsided on that right-hand side. And I was thinking this morning that one player in the Arsenal squad that perhaps is equally as delighted about this is potentially Bukayo Saka. Just to know that we have somebody on the opposite wing who I think on his day could potentially give equal threat to opposition defenders that Saka is on the right. I think he'll be looking at thinking, in addition to Gyökeres, my job has just gotten so much easier. We've now got a front three where you cannot afford really to double up on any one individual player because of the space that it will afford to other players. And I think he is, as your title of the video quite rightly says, he is a game changer. Yeah. And I think, I'm really excited to see what he does in this team. I actually wanted to ask you, you've spoken quite a bit in pre-season about sort of configurations of options on the left-hand side, sort of pairing left backs with the left wingers. Who do you think, and he's only just arrived, so it's quite hard to predict, but who would you say at this moment in time would you think would be the best complement to him in the left back position?
It's an interesting one. And I've been thinking a little bit about this morning, but I'd be lying if I said like I'd reached my personal conclusion on this. So I do need to go away and think about it. But I think my gut feel is saying not Miles Lewis-Skelly, because that would be two players that want to come infield too much for me. And then we lose all width on the left-hand side. I'm not saying that they'll never play together or that they shouldn't play together in certain situations or scenarios, but if you're asking me what the best configuration is and who will complement him best, there's a part of me that thinks Calafiori, because he seems to be more willing to make that overlapping run than any of our other left-back options, and that will then hopefully take away players and create space for Eze to come in field, which is ultimately what he's going to want to do. But the only thing, the only issue I have with Calafiori is that defensively, he's a little bit all over the place. And because of that, you're then asking Eze to do something that doesn't come as naturally to him as maybe it does to Martinelli, which is to stay switched on and to get back. I think the key here is that you got to use Declan Rice and Zubimendi right. And if you do, Declan Rice's sort of capacity to come across and cover, or to get back and cover, and maybe allow Gabriel to go a little bit wider left, which he's quite happy to do. I think maybe that's the way you plug the hole. And maybe that's the way you sort of manage that. But I think just for the fact that Eze will want to go inside and he won't want someone in his space, Lewis-Skelly will go inside as well. There might be a bit of a clash there. I'm going to say Calafiori, but I think there will be games where maybe the best option would be Timber, because you could sit Timber there and tell him stay back and defend properly, which he does. And he does it fantastically well, and basically give Eze a free roll. Let him drift out wide if he wants to, let him come inside if he wants to. That might be another way of tackling it. But whenever I suggest Timber at left back, I get a lot of pushback on that. There's always a lot of people telling me, what are you talking about? He's a right-sided player. He doesn't want to play there, blah, blah, blah. But I just think he's such a good 1v1 defender that he can platform someone to go and express themselves. And Eze is a player that you need to allow to express himself.
Yeah, completely agree. I think, we're going to have to just wait and see on that one, I guess, as to who Arteta obviously trusts to partner with him and who ends up, complement each other. I think I've not seen the great deal of Palace to know what he is like defensively going back the other way. I can't imagine it will be a problem for him. But that's one to keep an eye on. But yeah, I'm absolutely delighted for the signing. I think he, seeking those sort of those difficult games where you have 10 men behind the ball and we're relying on players to be able to get past a man, draw to players out of position, create some space for your Gyökeres in the box, for Rice arriving late. I think he's going to be absolutely game time. I'm absolutely delighted to have him.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It is an absolute game changer. Stephen, I'm going to wrap it up, mate. We've been going for over an hour. Thank you so much for waiting patiently, man. Really, really do appreciate
No problem,
it. Man. I suppose I should take the kids out. It is the summer holidays, and they're sort of one of them has been coming to the door of my office. My little boy's been coming to the door and peeping in to see if I'm done yet, because they want to get out of the house. I think they're a little bit bored. But yeah, thank you for joining me, mate. Really, really do appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's been tuned in as well throughout the duration of the show. Remember to like the stream, like the video, not the chat, the video. It really, really does help. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, and you can check us out on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Until the next one, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful day. What a day it's been so far. Smiles all around. Tottenham meltdowns everywhere you turn. This is what it's all about. See you all on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.